Hello everyone, I am back. And again, you don't get to see me because I am showing what's on my computer screen. That's what we're concentrating on. And the hassle of trying to get all of this zoomed in and aligned so that you get the best view is difficult. So I skipped that, went ahead, aligned everything, and so here we are. So those of you that are keeping up with this know that I went off and scanned the car in sections. Some of the sections were big, almost the whole side of a car, or at least 3/4 of it. Those files were so big that my laptop couldn't process it. It gave a out of memory error message. I've ordered some RAM, although several have said that it's the video card memory it's referring to. I don't know. Some said it's a CPU, but I don't know why it would say memory if it was a CPU. Anyway, I'll wait for the new memory to come in, upgrade it, and see if that helps. In the meantime, I decided to do photogrammetry. Now, I'd already taken the pictures knowing that I was going to do this. I tried this once before with this car, and I made a couple of mistakes. One, I assumed that I wanted the car maximized in the view every time, so I changed the zoom to maximize the car in the view. I found out you can't do that because it doesn't know how big things are, so it needs the zoom stayed the same throughout the process. The other thing is that it actually helps to have stuff in the background because it uses that as reference when it's trying to figure out where it is in 3D space. I only took about 150 pictures last time. It processed, it took, I'm going to say 8 hours, something like that, 9 hours. I did it overnight. And it ended up with pure garbage. I couldn't figure out what was supposed to be a car in the jumbled mess that it produced. So I deleted all that. So this time, when I took the pictures, one, I did not change the zoom. Two, I took over 1,000 pictures. I didn't really want to do that, but after I started, found out it wasn't as difficult as I thought. I literally just walked around the car and just kept pressing the photo button every, I don't know, couple of seconds as I moved the, in this case, the camera or my phone up and down, and I walked around the car. So I tried to get 6, 8 views at different heights at each position, then I moved to the next position and did it again. So like I said, I ended up with just over 1,000 photos. One of the issues was I have an iPhone and it creates photos in its own proprietary format. It's great because it's a small file size with detail. The problem is it doesn't work in anything else. So you have to convert them from the HEIC format to either JPEG or PNG or PNG, whatever the software needs. I really wanted it to be PNG because PNG support transparent backgrounds, but it was too much work to get it to convert. There was a way to, if I believe you just take the photos and move them to a file, out of your photos and into a file, it automatically converts them from the HEIC to JPEG. So I went ahead and did that. Then I took those and I had to get them transferred to my laptop. Well, when I plugged the USB into my phone, the phone wouldn't talk to the laptop. I spent about an hour trying to fight with it, never could get that to work. I have Amazon Photos. I took my phone and tried to email the photos using all my Google stuff, you know, the Drive and all that. It acted like it was going to send the photos, but it never did. I tried all kinds of things. Couldn't get it to work. Finally, I decided I would just back up my phone onto my laptop, and that worked. So then I had the JPEGs, but the way it worked was in the file I had both JPEGs and HEIC. So I had over 2,000 photos. I had to separate those. So then I had to go in and create folders and move all the JPEGs into one folder. Anyway, it took several hours to get all of that done. Finally got it all done. loaded it into the software. Now this software is called Meshroom, and it's free software. You can download it. It is made specifically for this. I've seen some phenomenal results for it, although I haven't seen anyone do a car with it. So this may be the limit, past the limit of what it can do. But on smaller things, it seems to do a really good job. It is very processor intensive. One of the videos I saw online, tutorials, recommended using a leased machine, virtual machine. That way it doesn't lock up your machine. This thing uses so much processing power that it basically your laptop or computer is a brick while it's doing the processing. So that's the other reason I held off on doing this, was I knew I wanted to do some scans or do the scanning, see what I could do with it. But since I hit a dead end with that, it was time to switch to this. One of the other things is I have some other parts I want to scan, and I can't do that because I'm doing this. I'll get back to the scanning after this is through. Speaking of which, so I loaded up the photos, and I knew that if 150 photos took 8 hours, that over 1,000 photos would take a lot longer. And if you look, the first part, it has a editor here that shows you all of the steps involved. So I started this around midnight last night after I finally got all the photos loaded and hit the start button. It started processing, and that was 11:40 to be exact. Here it is 9 o'clock in the morning, and we're not even halfway through this second step of feature extraction. Then we have image matching. There's a lot more to do here. This is the graphical steps involved. If I go to Task Manager, it shows the same thing, but in a different view. It went through all of this relatively quickly, this first one of camera initiation. Now it's on feature extraction. There are 29 of these little blocks here. And I looked at how long it's taking. It's taking about an hour to do each one of these blocks. A little bit less, but right at an hour to do each one of these blocks. So what that means is it is going to take 30 hours from when I started to get through just this step. All right, then I've got this other step, image matching, and then feature matching. I don't know how long that's going to take. You can see there's another one, prepare dense scene, a bunch. There's something right here. So just to get to the end of this is going to take about 29 hours. So about 4 in the morning, this will be done. Then it's got all of the rest to do. So my laptop's kind of tied up for the next day or two because I don't know how long all the rest of this stuff is going to take. I imagine some of these other steps will take a while. One of the tutorials said that, hey, you can go off and you can change all of these steps. All of this is editable, and you can right click on it and change it. He did not recommend just hitting this start button, but by the time I saw the video, I'd seen it before. By the time I saw it the second time, I had already pushed the start button and had been running. I didn't want to stop it. The advantage of not doing it that way is you can go to any one of these and say, I want to go up to this point, and then you can stop and see what you've got. By hitting the start button, it's basically, I'm assuming you have to just let it go to the end. I don't know. And with so many hours already invested in this, 9 hours already invested, I don't want to be playing around with it and seeing if pushing all these other ones after it started impacts it. What I'll do is next time I'll start it, let it go for like 30 minutes or something until it starts getting to this point, and then I'll try seeing if I can mess with it and edit it after the fact. But like I said, I don't want to lose the 9 hours I've already got invested in this. All right, that's all I really have. I'm crossing my fingers and hoping that when this is done, I'm going to get something useful out of it. I got somewhat useful files out of the other one. I sent them off to a 3D modeler, and he is going to process them and stitch them together. He actually requested I don't stitch them together. So I sent him what I had, I think, the ones that would process. I started stitching those 3D files together myself because the software that comes with the scanner allows you to do that. But I ran into the problem that if I loaded any of those large files, it wouldn't process. It would throw the out of memory error, and then with an OK, as soon as you hit the OK, it dismisses the whole program. So I never could get it to where I could get a good model of the car. The sections that are crashing are the ones that I specifically took because, let's say I did the front hood and it came out okay, and then I did the side. The scans would typically stop at some sharp edge. So in other words, it didn't want to go around this corner. So I could get all of the hood here, but it didn't want to go around the corner. Well, in order to stitch these together, you need overlapping points so that you could say, oh, this point in this scan is the same as the point in this scan. Or it actually can do it automatically, but again, it needs enough of an overlap to understand where similar points are. And the way it was, those points didn't exist. I had one scan of this fender and it was this side. I had another scan of this hood that stopped at that. So I knew that the seam of the two could be a place to reference the two, but the software didn't know that. And with no overlap, it really was difficult to say, well, where exactly is this edge? Because it wasn't necessarily a sharp edge. That's where the big scans came in. In those, I specifically concentrated on overlap areas. And by virtue of doing that, it created large files. I could have, had I known, I would have stopped. I would have just done this overlap, just done that overlap, just done each of the overlaps, and then use those to paste things together. Live and learn. Next time I know to do that. All right. I think that's all I've got. So I will let you know, update you in, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 hours from now. Who knows? But I will update you when I have something from this. And like, subscribe, hit the alert, hit the thanks if you want to donate something. And if you don't know what I'm doing, you don't know Jack. Oh, a couple other updates. One, I ordered carbon fiber. I'm switching to doing carbon fiber on my cars instead of fiberglass. The roll of carbon fiber came in. I got 85 yards of 50-inch carbon fiber. The thinnest I could get was 5.7 ounce. So I'm going to play with that. It came yesterday, but for some reason the epoxy didn't come, and I looked and it doesn't show two separate shipments, it just shows one shipment. So I'm hoping that the epoxy and hardener shows up today from UPS. If not, I'm going to be calling the vendor and trying to find out what's going on, because I would like to get started on that this weekend. The other good news is I ordered a Bugatti body, and it is supposed to be here Wednesday, this coming Wednesday, which is not quite a week away, a little less than a week away. So that'll be interesting. Unfortunately, I'm going out of town on vacation right after that, Friday. So I'll have it delivered, I'll get to look at it a little bit, and then I've got to take off. One of the things is it's a small body, smaller than the one that I have. So it'll be interesting. I'm just going to experiment with it and see what I can do with it. I do have the large Bugatti fenders that I bought last year for another project, and all of that is ideally will go on a C8 to make a Bugatti flavored or Art Deco flavored car on a C8 chassis. That was what I started off doing a year ago, 2 years ago. I guess it was 2 years ago. Yeah, because I was making clay models, plastic models, all of that. So now I'm getting back on that project. To remind you, this car that we see in the picture is now at Duntov Motorsports, and it's getting converted into as close to a C2 Grand Sport as is possible with the C8 platform. I gave them free rein to do whatever they thought or wanted to do to get it as close as possible. And some of you will be happy. One of the big things they said was they've got to lower the eyebrows, what I'm calling them, this back section here, I purposely made it higher than it was because I thought that was I do think that's a defining feature of the car, which is the other reason I wanted to get all of these scans, is so that I can duplicate this car, because they are essentially going to cut it up into pieces and replace the front end with a Grand Sport front end, the hood with a Grand Sport hood, possibly put Grand Sport fender flares, or at least some kind of fender flares. He feels that that's a defining characteristic of the Grand Sport, so it's going to need fender flares. As you can see, I purposely made this a wide body so I wouldn't have to put fender flares. So I said, hey, if you need to narrow it down, whatever you need to do to make it look as much like a Grand Sport as possible. The vent, they weren't sure what they were going to do with the vent. Anyway, it'll be kind of interesting to see what they're going to end up with. I'll be obviously surprised, hopefully pleasantly surprised. I'm not as committed to, since I have this one, this is my design, I'm kind of letting them do their design, and I'm sure I'll be happy with it. It's supposed to be ready for the SEMA show in November, is November 1st, which gives them right now just under 2 months to get it done. I will be shocked if they can get it done. I'll be pleasantly surprised if they can get it done, but I won't be horribly disappointed if they don't get it done. Because of that, because I'm not sure that they can do it in a time frame, I did not reserve a booth for SEMA, because to reserve a booth at SEMA, friends would have had to pull strings with their friends, and it would have looked really bad if I had them pull all those strings, had a booth set up, and then when SEMA came along, there wasn't a car, it was an empty booth. So I didn't want to bet the farm on that and sever some relationships, or, destroy or damage some relationships, there we go, with people because they stuck their neck out for me and then I didn't come through. So that's it. Like I said, I'll be back in a couple of days with this. Might be back sooner if my epoxy comes in, but even if the epoxy comes in, I've got to reassemble my molds. They're multi-piece molds. I've got to reassemble them and start doing that, and that'll take a day or so to do that. I also might move back into my garage. I know that my whole thing is shade tree supercar, and I'm not supposed to be using the garage, but we have been in rainy season for the last week or two, and so I may throw the flag or throw the towel in and move to the garage, because nothing with epoxy or fiberglass can get wet, because I found out from experience it absolutely ruins the resin. All right, I hope everyone has a great day, a great weekend. It is a long holiday weekend. I'm hoping to take advantage of that and get a lot of work done. All right, see you next time. Bye.